You know, we cover a lot of murders on the news. Just yesterday on this program, we were talking with reporter Rob Boffam, who covered the trial of Matt Forster, the young man who murdered Taylor Van Diest in Armstrong on Halloween night in 2011. Just one of the many cases over the years. And of course, families and people are involved in those stories. They're more than just news stories. Tonight, Brent Stafford is here to talk about his series that's online, The Aftermath of Murder, part of the National Victim of Crime Awareness Week. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jill.
How did this series come about?
Well, last year, this is year 2 for the series. Christopher Ducharme, who's the founder of the BC Victims of Homicide, him and I got together and he asked a very simple question. He said, how can we bridge the gap between how mainstream media covers murders and the lack of time and space and empathy that survivors need to have? Basically, on the front page of the news is the killer, the details, the court trial. And in the back, it goes away. That's right, it goes away.
Yeah, and then every once in a while we do a little story checking up on people.
That's right.
The tragedy is there's just literally so many of them.
There's a lot. In fact, this year for us, it's always tough because we go out looking for survivors to join the series. This year we have 12. And some very powerful stories.
We're going to start with Ray King.
Yes.
What's his backstory?
Well, Ray King's son, Ray King Jr., was killed by Clifford Olson in 1981. He was 15 years old. And he went missing for 2 weeks, and then they found his body. And obviously, Clifford Olson was one of Canada's most notorious serial killers.
Let's have a look at this clip from the show.
And unfortunately, he trusted everybody.
And did he actually trust Olson, from what you think now?
Yeah, I guess so. He went with him.
Can you describe to us what happened, what Olson did to your son?
Well, I think he was drugged, chloral hydrate and alcohol. He raped him. He drove a 3-inch nail into his head before he died. Just to see what would happen, he said. And then I'm not sure how he killed him. And then he just threw him in the woods up at Beaver Lake and left him naked.
Oh, gut-wrenching. You know, as a mother, I can't even imagine having to say all those words and have them be related to how my child's life ended. Really gruesome details there.
Yeah, and that's a big issue for us as producers and as an organization when we're tackling this issue, is how much of the details are appropriate to bring out. We really let the survivors drive that. It's up to them how much they want to share. In a lot of cases, the sharing publicly through Aftermath of Murder is a part of their healing process. In a lot of ways, it allows them to take ownership of that story, because most of the time the grisly details have been always told by the media, and this time it's them deciding how much to share.
Yeah, oh, awful. All right, Ernie Kray's sister is one of the Pickton victims.
Well, we don't know. Suspected.
Her DNA was not found on the farm.
No, the DNA was found on the farm, but she was not one of the women that were officially included. There wasn't enough of the DNA for it to be concluded that she was actually murdered there. So death certificate was released for Dawn Cray, but there hasn't been a determination. But it's one
would suspect.
Absolutely, of course.
That's where her life ended. All right, let's listen to Ernie Kray.
Well, all that remained of my sister was a blood stain on an undergarment in the trailer in which Mr. Pickton lived. There were no other remains.
It's hard to imagine the kinds of things going on in Pickton's brain. He's sick and twisted. What are your thoughts?
Well, whatever his problem was, whatever formed his character was, and I'm not sure what all those influences would have been that made him the man he was, but surely it included living under the thumb of a very powerful female figure. Surely it included being humiliated by females when he was a young man.
Oh gosh, you know, you feel so bad for families who have to come to grips with this horrible person, you know, that person's life intersecting with their loved one's life. It's interesting to me, you said you came out with 12, because in these two examples, both Clifford Olson and Robert Pickton, you know, Robert Pickton, unfortunately, is the guy who displaced Clifford Olson from our worst serial killer list.
Absolutely, that's correct, yeah.
Kind of odd, isn't it?
That is true, yeah. Clifford Olson was the beast of BC, and then, of course, Pickton did what he did. There's a other murders too to mention. In fact, it's really difficult because you don't rank them. They're
no,
all as
God,
bad.
No, they're
as,
horrible. Yeah. Where can people find these?
At aftermathofmurder.ca. If you go there, they can watch this season and the series from last year.
So 12 interviews with 12?
There's 15 actually. In just 14 months, we've produced nearly 300 minutes of content.
What kind of impact on you? What does it leave on your
What it's done
soul?
Well, it's hard because you have to internalize so much. What I do realize, though, is that no matter how hard you work, I can't remove that last little bit of a media person from me. That's, ooh, I got a good murder story. And I know the person that's across the desk from me couldn't be the farthest away from that feeling as possible. And that's what I have to work with when I do it.
Aftermathofmurder.ca.
That's correct.
All right, thanks, Brent.
Thanks, Jill.
Tonight's WTF is up next. An Alberta dentist clearly needs some help. Find out which member of the Fab